Hello, we shall continue with the 3.2 as second part of the green issues in supply chain management. So we define formally green supply chain management and we make use of Srivastava's definition. Professor Srivastava said, green supply chain management can be defined as integrating environmental thinking into supply chain management, including product design, material sourcing and selection, manufacturing process, delivery of the final product to the consumers, as well as end-of-life management of the product after its useful life. So this particular definition specify the integration, embedding, or seeding, putting in of environmental thinking into the entire concept of supply chain management. And it specified the area covered by supply chain management. So it says it includes product design, material sourcing and selection, manufacturing process. So including the processes in the manufacturing, like what type of oil we use, what type of paper we use, what type of materials, metal we use, delivery of the product, the final delivery of the final product to the consumers as well. How we deliver? Do we use big trucks to deliver a small package, or do we use small trucks to deliver many packages, which would require us to travel many times? As well as end-of-life management of the product after its useful life. Like, do we take it back? This is very much similar to stewardship, product stewardship, which we discuss on the other side, in part 1. So here at this point, it is very important to note that green supply chain is supply chain with a little green. All right. Hello. This is now the second part of the green supply chain management lecture. So we continue now. According to Srivastava, green supply chain management can be defined as integrating environmental thinking into supply chain management. So basically, when we say green supply chain management, we have added environmental thinking into supply chain management, including product design, material sourcing and selection, manufacturing process, delivery of the final product to consumers, as well as end-of-life management of the product after its useful life. To continue, this definition of Srivastava highlights the idea that we are not abandoning supply chain management in favor of environmental thinking. We are just saying we are integrating it, we are embedding environment into the entire concept of supply chain management. And so from that thinking, let us now go to the use of recycled materials and supply chain management. What is this? This particular idea of using recycled materials is a key point in green supply chain management. Actually, this is what we refer to as the reuse. Reuse part of the 3 R's: reuse, recycle, and reduce. This one, make or buy, is one of the basic decisions, is one of the most basic decisions in supply chain management. We know that supply chain researchers and practitioners have found that, I'd like to emphasize this, have found that strategic outsourcing may be driven by the potential for lower costs, higher quality, shorter lead times, and greater flexibility. And so We can say, therefore, that this is the basic motivation for doing um, outsourcing and buying recycled materials for lower cost, higher quality, shorter lead time, and greater flexibility. However, the literature does not typically address the issue of market power and concentration of resources. These are two important concepts that has not been discussed too much. Market power and concentration of resources. What does that mean? Market power is the capacity to sell and capacity to have a large following in the market. Like for example, I suppose Almarai would have a bigger market power compared to a smaller milk producer. And concentration of resources is somebody or some company who is very wealthy, where resources are concentrated in his company. These are two issues of particular importance for the choice of recycled materials versus virgin material. Virgin material means not used at all and have a significant implications for the make or buy decision. Let us continue. So for example, let us now consider a situation. Let us presume, for discussion purposes, that Almarai is a very big organization compared to NADA. But both Almarai and NADA are selling to juice drinker, people who want to drink juice, canned juice. And therefore, both of them would need bottles. They need empty bottles. It is unfortunate, however, that in our example, Almarai has a bottling company. It has a bottling company, all right? So it makes bottle. It's a bottle maker as well. So Nada and Almarai would be buying bottles from the bottle maker Almarai. But this company, this Almarai here, is a maker of juice. They have their own recipe. And at the end, they will be used, at the end, they will be generating a lot of empty bottles. The problem with this situation is that it is possible because these are both Almarais. The parent company would be the same. The owner would be the same. In order to protect Almarai, in order for Almarai to protect its juice business, it will cut off this link. He will not want to sell to Nada anymore or stop the bottle supply. When that happens, then Nada can no longer do business because he has no empty bottle. That is a possibility that is probably remote, but can happen in a very tight competitive market. So as a futuristic decision, or as a decision to provide bigger stability for its business, Nada will now intentionally buy from the second-hand market. The assumption is that there is a group of people who would take the empty bottle and clean them up and recycle it and sell it back to Nada. I think there are some. This is true for some shampoo maker or laundry juice or plate make, hand washing or dishwashing maker, where they use the bottle of a bigger organization. In that way, Nada doesn't have to buy directly from Almarai's used bottle. He can go to the recycling company because this recycling company will be getting the bottle from other sources as well. So in that end, you are making Nada more stable compared, and of course Almarai will be stable there, but you make NADA less dependent on Almarai. Having said this, it doesn't mean that NADA will no longer buy from the bottle from Almarai, except that he can produce product, a second product that uses recycled bottle, and the primary product will be using the Almarai bottle, so that if the worst happens, he can just let go of that product and concentrate on the secondary product. So now let us now consider the drivers and the barriers. It is very important now to discuss what are the drivers and what are the barriers to the practice of green supply chain management. There are internal drivers, that's as in the form of organizational factors, and external drivers, customers, regulations, suppliers, competitors, and society. These drivers are the ones that push the businessman to do green supply chain, to be aware of the pollution, to be aware of the environment. And most common incentives and pressures are coming from customer demands, response to stakeholders, and legal demands from the government. But this one would be from the customer, and this one from the owners. It is also worth mentioning that reputation loss is one of the least common incentives. So basically, organization really doesn't care too much what the market thinks about its reputation on hurting the environment. It doesn't care. What it cares would be its revenue and its profitability. So now internal supporting factors are management system. Management system refers to who reports to whom, what reports are generated, how things are organized, right? And company overlapping communication, sanctions, evaluation, and reporting. This is what we refer to when we say internal supporting factors. And the internal barriers for supply chain management were or are coordination complexity, how well they talk with one another, coordination effort, and insufficient or missing communication in the chain, and of course higher costs. These are barriers for in practicing global green supply chain management, because in green supply chain you are doubling up your effort. You need to do more, like recording. You have to follow a certain rules. You set up a method of doing things, and you need a lot of this could increase costs. Green supply chain could increase your operating costs, or insufficient or missing communication in the chain, because here you need permission to do something, and this communication, if it is broken, you won't get permission to do things. So that's why we have this coordination complexity and coordination effort. And finally, we can identify two types of barriers, internal and external. So we have internal barriers would be lack of legitimacy and cost. It's like who ordered it, so that's legitimate. While external barriers would include regulation, poor supplier commitment, and industry-specific barriers. Of course, the last one is like an add-on. Again, I would like to highlight the idea that we are talking about stuff or things that stop the practice of supply chain management, or of green supply chain management. Finally, I'd like to present to you the various factors that you can tap that you can tap to improve the green supply chain management practices in your company. But let me read first. So it says here that these are the resources. Now you have physical, informational, human, personal, people, knowledge, relational, our alliances, our friends, and organizational. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What does it say is that you treat these 6 columns as resources. Those resources can be utilized to mitigate the impact of supply chain management or supply chain activities to the environment. In fact, those resources are the ones which, when wrongly used, negatively affect the environment. So let's go back. This is a resource, physical resource. Heavy trucks, light trucks, delivery trucks. These are resources within the logistics service providing business. Then we have informational, things that enable us to coordinate with one another. Human, people who works with us. And then we have knowledge, idea about something. Relational, you see, humans are people, and relational would be how are we connected with one another. And finally, organizational. What we are saying is that this graph shows us various resources that can help us stop polluting the environment. Because why? This column here, the physical column, are the ones who generate a lot of waste, pollution, and these resources here, the reason why we take this up here is that we can make use of these resources to fix this. Like the way we use the information, how do we deal with the information? We deal with the pollution. The human people, how are they helping us? And then we have knowledge about the specific industries. We have to know. Complicated route is optimization is one of them. We have to know how well a particular material or resources affect pollution. Relational, our connection with other companies, and within ourselves, our reporting structure, our planning, our system for coordination and routines. All of this 5 can be used to fix problems in the physical resource. Those resources, I'm going to repeat, can be utilized to mitigate the impact of supply chain activities to the environment. In fact, those resources are the ones which, when wrongly used, negatively affect the environment. Thank you.